Welcome to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We talk race reviews, news from the paddock, and bring you everything from the world of Formula One. And now your hosts, Drew, Walker, Ed, and Tomas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We are back today with the boys recapping Monza. We had Drew, Thomas, Edward. Everyone's healthy, which is nice to see because Thomas was a bit of a game time decision. But you're here. Happy to see all your beautiful faces. We came off a really exciting weekend. Monza, exciting race, fast, temple of speed. We had lots of great battles up and down the track. We had the McLarens versus the McLarens. We had the Ferraris versus the Ferraris. Battles all over the track. So lots to recap. Who wants to get us started here? Thomas, you were shaking your head no. So I feel like you're going to be the dissenting voice in the group. Maybe we'll start with you.
Oh, God. Well, I thought it was a pretty boring race, honestly. As I was talking to Drew, as soon as Max basically went first, I stopped watching, and then I fell asleep only to wake up a couple hours later and rewatch the whole race again from the beginning. And it was still kind of shit. The only exciting part was the McLarens, the Ferraris. Surprise, surprise, Red Bull won too. Not too impressed. Was really hoping to see Ferrari on there, hoping 1-2 or 2 or 3, something like that. So that was a big disappointment. Overall, kind of shitty start to the race with Mr. Yuki Tsunoda. That fucked up the whole thing. And then I believe one of the Ferrari boys said they were having problems churning. So I'm like, great. What else is there to come? Overall, a solid 6 out of 10 on the race weekend. Nothing too great. Those are my thoughts. Drew?
All right. You know what? I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I actually quite liked the race. I think it was good to see the Williams boy, let's get real, show off what that car could do. I loved watching the Ferrari boys just not give a fuck about their team orders. Like, let's just bring it in home. And like, they were literally locking up into like the last couple corners, and like Chuckles the Buckles doing his thing. And Carlos was not giving it up. And you know what? This is the most competitive I've ever seen Carlos Sainz. And it was aggressive. And I loved every piece of it. It looked like he wanted to win for the very first time ever. And he didn't have the car for it. But if he was in a Red Bull, he would have beat Max this weekend. He was unbelievable. And he was in a subpar car defending him. And you know what? On that point, too, I'd love to just commend Max Verstappen on obviously a record-breaking race win in a row. And I'd also love to commend him on his patience these days. He would have never done that before. He would have crashed in the first couple corners, but to watch him, kind of wait it out over the first dozen laps and like just wait out for the right time to pass without the risk was just unbelievable. And, having Lewis Hamilton kind of give a little love tap to our homeboy Oscar Piastri in the last third of the race. Kind of threw a wrench into things a little bit, and it's unfortunate, but it was super classy of him to apologize afterwards and show his class as a racer. So what do you got, Ed?
Honestly, like, that race for me was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it to the extent of how Ferrari literally used their best strengths as a team and pull down all the downforce from the car and make it as fast as they can. They put in fresh engines in the car. It was really great, and like the battles between the different teams was also something that I thoroughly enjoyed, namely Ferrari and Red Bull. And then Alex Albon, that dude just like really came out and showed that the car was capable of straight line speeds. He took it to Lando Norris and a little bit of Alonso. and also with Hamilton too. So I thoroughly enjoyed the race. I really liked it. Might be something that Thomas would say otherwise, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the race.
So I think I took away a couple of things from this race. Max notwithstanding, I think if you look back at, places 2 to 12, like it was a competitive race through and through. I think there was a lot of opportunity. There was a lot of close racing. There was a lot happening there, which was nice to see. Yes, I know the guy in front, number one, it's kind of a given, but let's also realize that, he wasn't lapping and gapping number two at the same pace that he was in the beginning of the year. So good for Max. He got that record-winning win in terms of consecutive wins. To Drew's point, his patience in the beginning, was impressive, and it's definitely an evolution of his driving style. But he still sounds like a douche when he was talking about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, these guys, no fucking chance. We got this." Like he was so confident early on. I think it was like lap 2 or whatever. It's just like, man, like, do you have to say that kind of stuff? Because it just like ruins the moment and it for me as you as a driver. Anyways, but I thought there were really great battles all the way through the field, which were really nice to see. A couple of incidents, the McLarens tagging each other. Then you had Lewis and Piastri, which were also, I think that was just a bit of a racing incident, and it happens. But it was unfortunate for Piastri. But going back to the Ferraris, we knew they needed a big weekend here at home, and I think they really came through, and they performed. And I don't know if the Ferraris race harder against anyone else on the field other than themselves. Like, I don't think they were any more competitive than within their own team. There's memes all over the internet the following day about, Charles, racing against Max, and it was, he was like kind of like a calm little puppy dog, and then he's racing against his own teammate Sainz, and he's like this werewolf, right? He's just like attacking and not giving up. So it was really fun to see those guys race. And I think the last few laps, I'll speak for myself, holding your breath, thinking like, you almost expect them to like run into each other and both like DNF. It would be such a Ferrari thing to do at Monza to, be in a podium position and then just like Leclerc like running into the back of Sainz and they're both out. Like that would just be like such a given thing for Ferrari to do. But they managed to hold it together and come through and really put on, I think, a great show for the fans, for the Tifosi, and that was really great to see. Who's your driver of the day, Drew?
Carlos Sainz, hands down, dude. I said it once and I'll say it again. That was an absolutely impressive drive from him. He got the start. He defended Max as best as that car could, and I just think that he really impressed me, and he earned his spot as second driver at Ferrari all day. If they think there's another driver on the grid that would be a better fit than that, I think they're crazy. What about you, Thomas?
I agree with you. Carlos Sainz, wow, he fucking killed it. He performed so well, racing with Charles, but not just with Charles, against, holding off against Max. The defense was there. Amazing. Just really, really well deserved, and I hope we see more of this Carlos Sainz.
I'm actually torn between two drivers. For qualifying, definitely Sainz. His defense also was really, really well. He was at a deficit too because of his car not having enough downforce. He was scrubbing his rear tires like anything. But I don't want to give out on, or I don't want to leave out rather, Alex Albon. Again, showing up second weekend. Really, really showing up there and like, showing what he can do as a driver with a subpar car. So yeah, that's those two drivers for me. How about you, Walker?
I mean, I think I got to give it up to Sainz again. I think he, just put up like a really strong fight, fought to the end for that podium, which was amazing to see, especially coming off his, his qualifying lap as well, which gave him pole. So I was happy to see him up there. And again, I think, he and the team needed a really strong drive. And I think, and they gave it, and it was scrappy. It wasn't given to them. They didn't have a dominant car, I would say, right? They had a competitive car, but that third place was never given, either between Sainz or Ferrari and any of the other teams on the grid, like the Mercedes. So I think they executed well, and I'm going to give that to Sainz, I guess, if we're going for drivers. Who on the grid were you a little bit disappointed with? Who are you worried for? Who needs a big showing in a couple of weeks in Singapore? Thomas?
Who needs a showing? I'm gonna go with Sergio Perez, man. He did really well on the second place, well deserved. But today, I'm not too sure if you guys saw the release or whatever, that he's looking. He's exploring options at other teams past 2024. And I think to him, pressure got to him, or is really, really getting to him. He needs to perform. I think he said he doesn't feel, I might be paraphrasing here, he doesn't feel like he's contributing enough, I think is what he was trying to say. And he wants to contribute more to the team, to the wins. So he did amazing the straights, finishing second. But he's the one that really needs to watch out, in my opinion. Ed?
I agree, but I want to talk about that a little bit more later on, because I think there's more to that than meets the eye of a a casual follower of Formula One. But for me, someone who needs to really like show up in the next few weeks is Alonso. Like, it's not that they don't have a good car, but it feels like Alonso's just cruising by with what he can actually do. And the car in itself, like he did mention in one of the interviews in free practice, and I think it was post qualifying too, that their car is not designed or was not built for straight line speed. They're more for like corners. But I beg to differ, because Red Bull was able to show up against Ferrari, where for Ferrari, they set up their car for straight line speed, and Red Bull also reduced their downforce by going with a smaller wing. So for me, it's just like, it's possible to run a race with a good cornering car. So that's what AMR or Aston Martin was supposed to be good at, and still nothing. So I know Stroll's are pretty much a goner. Like, they, Aston Martin should just get rid of him at this point. Just pretty much just has his dad there so that he can claim that seat. But yeah, Alonso, man, like, he had a good outing before the break, and then now it's just like, it feels like he's cruising a little bit. How about you, Walker?
So that's interesting. I think, and I think in Formula One, it's a very, common question. Is it the driver or is it the car, right? Like, what is really affecting the performance majority of the time, right? And look at someone like Alonso, like you just brought up, Ed, and, he came out of the gate and the car was super competitive, or he was super competitive, and we kind of aligned the competitiveness with the car with like his drive and his passion, and he's going to be on every podium, et cetera, right? So my question, I guess, just a thought moving forward is it really Alonso has lost that drive for this year? Is it the fact that the car just isn't competitive as the rest of the teams have started to develop and iterate on what they had? And is it just our perception that he's not into it because he doesn't have the car to perform as well as he'd like it to, right? I don't know. It's a bigger question, right? It's a bigger discussion, but it's just my thought. Who needs to step up? Joe. I don't know. That guy's done nothing this year. I've said it a few times, and I think he's just, it's a shit car, presumably, right? But, he's just been absolutely nowhere. I can't really... Yeah, that's the guy that comes to mind. Drew, who's in trouble next race? Who needs to show up?
I'd really like to see Liam Lawson like maintain his pace. Like, I really think that like Danny Ricciardo has something to be worried about if Liam Lawson keeps up with what he's doing. I don't know if he's in trouble, but like I just want to see more of him, and I want to see him keep like I think what he finished 11th in that race, which is exactly where Yuki is like historically been, and I think that that's a good number and a good high watermark for AlphaTauri, and like if he's getting that in his let's call it a few hours in an F1 car, I think he has something to show, and I don't think he's in trouble, but I just am really excited to see a good young racer get his shot in whatever car that he's in.
So let's go back to that comment that Perez made, and we were just talking about that. Thomas brought it up, and Ed, you want to touch on it a little bit later. Now seems like later, so do you want to pick that up? He was talking that he wants to go to a team where he's contributing a little bit more, and he wants to have more of an impact. You said there was more to impact there. What's your take on that?
Talking about Sergio Perez, if you were to go back to when he was dropped by his former team Racing Point, and then he was at that point where either he was going to leave Formula One and start more time with his family. The only reason why he came back was because of Red Bull. So he had that feeling where you know what, I'm being picked up by another team, and it's a stronger team too. And I think the hopes was like he was going to really contribute. But based on like the setup with the car, and I don't know if you guys have been like watching some of his past interviews, his main complaint was that the car is being built specifically around Max, which I would definitely, being as a person who's wants to build around, like, for example, if I'm the strategist for the team, or if like I'm the manager, I would build against my ace driver 100% any day of the week. So Max's style and Sergio's style is kind of like different in a sense that Max is very, very adaptable to any situation, and that Sergio's main complaint is that the car is very unstable in the corners compared to how he would like a car being set up, be a little bit more relaxed on the corners. It'll be easier to drive. So as the past 2 years have gone through, like, it feels like the setup for the car and the way it's being built is more towards what Max's strengths are towards compared to what Sergio's driving style. So for me, like, that tells Sergio that at this point the focus is definitely on Max, and that he won't be the the main focus of how the car is going to be built moving forward. And I think that's the contribution side of what Checo has been trying to say. Like, either I'm going to be in a team that I'm able to contribute and being able to really race against my teammate, or I'm going to leave because I'm probably going to be treated better in a different team, maybe a midstream team or a smaller team, to build the car to my standards, and just leave leave in a or possibly even retire in a team that's going to be taking care of me. That's the way I see it.
Okay, but do you think he actually ever walked into Red Bull thinking that he was ever going to be the number one driver there? I mean, in what world did he come off?
No, I doubt
in what
it.
world did he come off of, like, coming out barely having a seat after Racing Point goes under, and then be like, I'm going to march into this team with, the second or first best driver on the grid, and I'm going to be number one. I'm going to be put in that position. I'm going to take that position where now they're going to be able to build the car around me. I don't think he was ever under any impression that he went in there. And I think, and it's more of a question, right? Like, so now do you think that, he's seen success the last few years because he's been in a good team, he's had some good results, where now he feels like he deserves to have that car built around him, where he deserves to be the number one guy?
No, I don't think it's him being the number one guy. I don't think that's what he's asking for. And being that he got signed on to Red Bull, I mean, it goes unsaid that Max is the number one driver. what he's just really asking for is, give me something that I can use. Give me something that I can compete in. Give me something that um that I can try to win races and try to take, the fight to Max, which he was doing at the start of the season. Like,
Yeah,
he
but I
was
mean, he's
doing
been,
really well.
yeah, sure, but he's been, I mean, competing. Like, there are other people on the grid that you're competing against. I know we have it in the context of like Max and Checo, but I mean, like, he came in second. It's a competitive car, right? So I have some ideas that we'll touch on a little bit later, but I'm just, and again, it's more just questions for discussion, like really trying to understand what we think his motivation here is with those quotes. And again, we talked about this last week. Like, do we really feel we take Max? I think, we lose context of the rest of the season when we look at Max alone, right? Because he's just on, like, he's in another stratosphere, right? We're looking at Checo, second in driver's standings, had 2 back-to-back podiums, competitive car, always fast if he doesn't crash it, right? So I think we have to look at the season with greater context, aside from what Max is doing. And I think aside from that, he has a competitive car. It's a relatively competitive season. But that's just my take. Drew, do you want to hop in on this?
I personally, I honestly don't think that Checo is going to be of any value to anyone later on. I don't think he's going to be able to pass off any sort of his talents or his abilities to any of these new younger drivers going to a different team. I think if he just ends his career gracefully at Red Bull, he'll have done great. He might go to other GP series or other open wheel racing. But I just can't imagine, with the new talent coming up and some of the other drivers on the grid, that he's got a safe spot anywhere else. And I just don't think that with what's happened this year, that anyone else would feel safe double down or betting on him.
Yeah. Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Just I think Red Bull is going to be the death of him. Everyone expected the great things of him, and he had a couple decent races. But going how it was going, as Drew said, there's going to be teams are going to be hesitant to put him in another F1 car. In my opinion, he just doesn't have the marketability as Danny Rick. He doesn't attract that many people. Not saying he's not a great driver or anything, but his time is very, very limited with Red Bull. If he doesn't perform really, really well this season, I think that's it. His time is up. Next year, I don't think he'll make a big difference unless he manages to pull off a Max Verstappen the whole season for next year. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, so my 2 cents on Checo is I think he just has a serious case of, the grass is greener syndrome. And I don't think he realizes how good he has it right now. And it's interesting because I think there are other teams that will take him. Marketability wise, he's okay, but he comes with some serious sponsorship money from Mexico as well, from the telecommunication side of things. So I think he has that. But I almost feel like there are shades of Danny Rick right now, where when things aren't going exactly as you want them to go in your team, you think that you go somewhere else and things are going to be better, and things are going to be better. And we've seen what happened with his career over the last few years, making those multiple moves to places that, maybe haven't worked out as he had hoped. And I think, my lasting words for Checo are just, the grass is greenest where you water it, buddy. So, enjoy what you have at Red Bull. Race your heart out these last couple of years and call it an amazing career, right? Because you've had extremely competitive years. If you don't want to go on an extended schedule, as they talk about adding more and more races, he's already talked about not wanting to like race a 30 race season or whatever it is, right? Enjoy these last 2 years in an extremely competitive car, make the most of it. And because the last thing that you're gonna enjoy is going to a midfield team that's not competitive after being at this car in this team at that stage in your career. That's my opinion. Maybe he'll go to some other series and do some rally racing or something fun like that. But I don't really see the point of much beyond Red Bull, beyond 2024, given what he's in right now and what he's experiencing. So don't be fucking greedy, Checo. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and like that's the thing too, man. Like, isn't there value in just retiring as like a absolutely rich guy and just being like, I don't want to race at all. No more rallying, no more open wheel. Like, why can't you just go be rich? Like, isn't that like an okay thing to do these days? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, but I think it's also, it's also part of their DNA and what got them to where they are, right? And any kind of high level athlete, I think in any sport, doesn't matter if it's racing, basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever, you definitely have stories, and you see these guys who maybe, try and extend it longer than they should, or they try and, you know, take one more trade or sign one more contract to try and win whatever championship it is, right? When sometimes it would have been nice if they just kind of retired gracefully. But I think that's just part of the makeup of a professional high level athlete. I'm happy to retire rich. So, I'm just waiting for the rich part and then I'm good. The thing I did want to talk about was a question that came up in the Discord. I don't know if you guys had seen it over the weekend. Someone had talked about changing up the format of Formula One and how drivers are assigned to teams. And it kind of comes back to the question that I had posed earlier about, is it the machinery or is it the driver? It's obviously a combination of the two. But they had proposed that Formula One almost work as like a round robin kind of style, where drivers are racing in different cars every couple of weekends or whatever it is. So you really get to see the difference between the skill level and the engineering and how they match up. Do you think this would ever be a viable format for Formula One? Edward, what do you think?
I doubt it. The sponsors.
Okay, I guess two things. A, would it be viable? And two, would it be something that you'd like to see? Because those are two different questions.
Actually, that's a good follow-up. Is it viable from a business standpoint? Sponsors are not going to enjoy that because they wouldn't want their branding to be in a car that's maybe it performs really well, and then you get the likes of I don't know, Logan Sargent or something, that or even like I'll even go as far back as Pastor Maldonado driving a Red Bull that's gonna crash into everything. So, or even Mr. Mazepin, Nikita Mazepin, like driving a Red Bull. I don't think they're gonna allow that. However, having an equal playing field and like for every single driver, and being able to quash out the upgrades or the amount of money, which I think the FIA is trying to do in terms of like bringing down the budgets and whatnot. That would be nice to really watch because you really see racing. Because as the late and great Ayrton Senna said in his documentary, his favorite memory of racing is when he was karting, because it was pure racing. There's no money involved. There's no politics involved. It was pure racing. And that for me also is something that I'd really want to watch. All equal with everyone, like really showing out what can a driver do. So wishful thinking, yeah, I wish we could do that, but I don't think it's viable at all. Thomas?
I'm with you, Ed. I agree. Would I love to see something like that? Absolutely. I think that'd be awesome to see and experience it. Would it work? No. Part of it is what you said, sponsors. The other part, I think it would be the teams wouldn't really enjoy that too. Maybe let's say Nikita Mazepin will go into a Red Bull, and who to say Mr. Nikita Mazepin's that crashes into every single thing wouldn't steal something or spy on this car, or say it performs this at this corner, or it takes this corner at this speed. So kind of like, I guess it would fall under like intellectual property theft, if you could kind of call it like that. It would be kind of like a spy for the team. So I don't think that would work. That's my point of view why it wouldn't work. But again, having said it, I think it would be really, really cool to see that, but it's not going to happen. It's wishful thinking in my eyes. Drew?
I'm with you guys on that one. There's no way it's going to work. It's a cute idea in theory, but it'll never happen because like having another driver in your car, you never know what driver is going to be in your car. The amount of time it would take to readjust the cars for each driver, the amount of money that they put into the car, who says one of them isn't going to crash it. I think the concept is nice, and you might be able to do something like this maybe for fun as like an exhibition match, as some other sports do with a couple of teams or whatever. But like the idea for the entertainment value is there, but the practicality of it is almost zero, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the more practical approach would maybe be doing something more of like a homologated like racing series where all the cars are the same. Like you stick with the same team, you stick with the same, engineer and team and things like that. But I think, homologating the cars so that they're all identical. But really, I don't think that's the point of Formula One. And I think really what one of the things that appeal to us about Formula One is the engineering and is that innovation side of it and that competitiveness between the teams, right? And knowing that, each team is trying to out innovate each other. I think for homologated racing series, I think there's lots of them out there. There are Cup Car series, there are GT series, which are much more tightly regulated in terms of the equipment that each one can have. And I think those racing series have their place. But I don't think that's what Formula One is about. I don't think it would really be that entertaining, because at the end of the day, the best drivers are going to come to the top regardless of that. And you're going to, maybe it's more representative of driving talent, but I don't think it's necessarily going to make it more of an even playing field, because you're still going to have just those drivers that get it more, or those drivers where, that homologated car is better suited to their driving style. So you're still going to have those gaps in performance. But to Drew's idea, it's a cute idea.
I mean, there's actually a series called Race of Champions, but it's not really that followed as much. Whereas former drivers, former champions are actually join it, and I think they have like a rallycross series and a kart series. And they all just drive the same stuff. So I think the idea, the execution can be done, but just to echo again, like not in Formula One, which is exactly what you said, Walker.
So we're looking forward to Singapore. We got a couple of weeks. Completely different track from Monza. Tons of fun. We got a night race coming up, which is always a beautiful spectacle. What are we looking forward to for the Singapore GP? Ed, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, definitely a higher downforce track compared to Monza. Totally stark difference. So Ferrari's probably gonna get back into the drawing board. Like, okay, we need to get back into things and set up our cars again. Going back to my earlier point with Alonso being like the worst driver, or a driver that needs to show up, this would be the time. This would be the time to really showcase, to see if he's back or he's not. Another team for me that I want to take a look at and see if they can show up as well, McLaren. I think they have the chops. I think their car has the capabilities to really perform in Singapore. They don't have straight line speed, but they have that cornering. So yeah, those three teams, or two teams rather, I really want to see them perform this time around. Thomas?
First of all, I want to say don't make fun of my boy Alonso, okay? He still has a lot left in him. I believe there's worse drivers than him, but yes, to your point, I do hope he steps it up a little bit as well, because I think last race he finished, ninth? And I thought he was capable of more than that. What am I looking most of Singapore? The track itself and the race itself. When was the last time, we had that race? Like 2019, 2020, something like that. Night race as well. Let's go. It's going to be an interesting race. Hopefully some more fighting with Ferraris, with McLarens, with Astons. Maybe Lance Stroll will decide to put a rabbit out of his hat and actually be in the points. Who knows? That'd be interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the whole GP in general and seeing what we'll see. Drew?
I always like Singapore. I think it's it's going to be a nice switch up to see what the teams have for a very different track from Monza. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Ferrari boys continue to fight it out. That car had a lot of great upgrades that did well at Monza, and I'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing if it'll replicate at Singapore. And I think that there's an opportunity for Mercedes to step up a little bit. I think McLaren's going to look a lot tighter as a team in that race, and I don't think the Red Bulls are going to get touched again. I think if Checo pulls up his socks and continues the way that he did in Monza, that they're going to have a 1-2 lockout again. But I'm just looking forward to it as a generality. If there anyone to watch out for, I think Lando Norris is going to put an absolute dummying on Oscar Piastri, and I think he's going to push so hard because I think he wants to be the number one in a very competitive 1-2 scenario going into the last half of the season. And I think that there's an opportunity for him to jump up and take that seat right here. So, yeah.
So I do just want to address a couple of straight up lies that were just told. And my apologies to the listeners in advance. One, Edward just said that Alonso was the worst driver, which is, I think a straight up lie. Thomas also lied and said that there were no races since 2019, which is also a lie. So it's good to know we are on our shit here. There was a race last year. I couldn't tell you who won. Hold on. I will. Perez won. Speaking of Perez, he won last year. And I'm sure there were far worse drivers on the grid than Alonso. So you both need to check your facts. Going to be a good race. We got McLaren, I think, is going to come back. Who else is going to do well? I think could suit Mercedes a little bit better as well. I think obviously Red Bull is going to be competitive, but I think this track with higher downforce night race, so the track temperatures are probably going to be a little bit lower, which I think will suit McLaren as well in terms of the tire degradation. So I look forward to seeing a competitive race. Let's go 1 through 4 really quickly. Who are you predicting, Thomas?
Obviously, Max is going to be the number 1. 2, I am going to go with Lewis. 3, I'm going to go with Lando. 4, Checo. Ed?
Max, Checo, Lewis, Sainz. Drew?
Ooh, I'm going to go Max, Checo, Leclerc, Hamilton.
Okay, I am going to go Norris, Hamilton, Checo, Sainz. Max is going to end up in a wall somewhere.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
Now
That's
is what you call wishful thinking.
That's bold. Wow.
That's
a
wishful
bold.
thinking right there.
It's a tight race, lots of walls. We'll see. I don't know. Why not? Before we go, we have our favorite game. Name that sponsor. You know how it works. I'm going to name 2 Formula One sponsors. You have to tell me what they do. You have to tell me which car they appear on. We are going a little softball today. Okay, we're going to make it easy on you guys. The first one is IWC. I'm looking for the full name, what it does, and team. Drew?
IWC, it's a watch company, and they're on Mercedes.
Drew?
Yes?
All I heard was ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
That's all I heard too.
All right, well,
watch
Drew
company, Mercedes. No? No, you guys
Sorry,
don't get me?
what is okay, first of all, what does the IWC stand for? Yeah, you're kind of cutting in and out.
I'm so sorry. IWC
Drew
is a watch company.
Disqualified. Drew is cut off.
Oh, man.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
You know what? I'm gonna steal his thunder here. It's a watch company and it's Mercedes.
For bonus points, you know what IWC stands for?
I do not.
International Watch Company.
Well, you've got it right. Watch company. Yeah, do you just Google that, Drew? Thanks for coming back to us.
I didn't Google it. You can see my hands.
You know what?
Heck.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't.
We can't see your hands.
You have no camera because your internet
really?
sucks, and you keep dissing my internet. So
no.
you
Yeah.
have shitty internet.
Yeah, this is coming. Yeah. Well, you know what? He's
Everyone
in Mimico.
is on a grill today. Jesus.
He is in Mimico, which Mimico is like the Lithuania of Ontario. So.
Ooh. Spicy.
You know, I'm gonna.
Rough.
So you guys are going to share those points, okay? Half points each to both of you. Next one. Tag Heuer.
Ding,
Also
ding,
a
ding,
watch
ding,
company.
ding. Watch
Dumbass.
company. Okay, he doesn't get those points. I said watch company first. He has a lag, so that's my full points.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with watch company and goddamn, what manufacturer is it?
Ferrari.
Fuck, Mercedes. I'm gonna say
Alpha.
You said. Hold
Alpha.
on. So Drew, you said watch company and Ferrari.
Correct.
Okay, and Ed, you said watch company and.
Alfa Romeo.
I'm actually surprised no one got this one. Yeah, watch company, Red Bull. You guys are sleeping.
Really? Oh, we are sleeping on that. You're right.
Yeah. I can't believe
Red
it. They
Bull?
always wear. Yeah, they're always wearing like the Monacos, the little square watches.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Drew, did you say you had an IWC in your hand? Is that what you said?
No, I said you can't see my hands. I don't know if you guys can see them now, but I said I didn't Google them. You can see my hands.
Oh, I see you. Yeah, you're just like a fucking pixelated ball.
isolated
guys,
for
this
me.
is
It's on a
absolute-
black screen.
Absolute ball drop. This I absolutely habitual ball drop.
Well, you know what? You can apologize to yourself because you're the one that's going to have to edit all this.
Oh, I know.
So that is our episode for Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Thanks for everyone being here most of the time, except Drew, because he can't figure out his internet. But it was fun, nevertheless. We will be back next week. It is a bye week. Did they say bye week in Formula One? No, that's football. It's an off week. But we'll still be back with lots of more Formula One talk.
Travel week.
Thank you for listening. Travel week, thank you. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends to listen. Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Thanks so much for listening.
Peace.
Welcome to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We talk race reviews, news from the paddock, and bring you everything from the world of Formula One. And now your hosts, Drew, Walker, Ed, and Tomas.